Rebecca with the Nocturnal. How are you?
What's up, Rebecca? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Wait, where are you at?
I'm in LA. What about you?
I'm in Jersey. That's why I'm like, it's
Oh, okay.
afternoon.
You said it's afternoon. No, well, good afternoon. I appreciate you taking the time to talk. Excited.
Of course, of course. So, one of the things I want to talk about is I looked at a tweet that you retweeted about the sacrifice that your family has made for you to be in the position you are in today. So,
Yeah.
can you talk to me a little bit about what's it like being here today and seeing how much success season one has had and seeing how excited people are for season two?
Absolutely. I think the word that comes to mind for at the forefront is gratitude. For this whole situation to be in this position to tell these stories is an honor, and it's something I never take for granted. And I'm so thankful for my parents, who made sacrifices, so that I would be in this position, to tell these stories and all of the support that they've shown me emotionally, throughout my entire career, since day one. They've always been there as my biggest fans to just say, keep going, son, through all the ups and the downs of it. Keep going, son. Keep going, son. We believe in you. And, I think for anybody watching out there, that's all a young creator needs is your parents just telling you, just keep going. You know what I mean? And knowing that, every step of the way they've been proud, and all I want to do is make them proud.
With this show, I feel like it does have such an impact because we saw how the original was and seeing how this reboot is. I just loved how I could see myself in this. I could see
Yeah,
my
come
family
on.
members in the show. And I just feel like for me, it's just very relatable because like I mentioned, I see those aspects and parts of my life in the show.
I love that. That's so beautiful. And that's what it's all about, is to tell the stories that aren't necessarily being told like this. The story of a Black family in modern day life in America, is a very important story to tell. We recognize the platform that we have through the show, and we don't take these stories for granted. We don't take it lightly. And every day, our job is to show up and create the most, just capture a portrait again of a Black family that has a wide range of the spectrum, and it's three-dimensional, and we bring them into a world where these characters aren't one-dimensional tropes or anything like that. Everybody is fully dimensionalized. And since day one, even on the pilot, it was really important that I let Jabari and Coco and all of you say, bring your truth to these roles.
Mm.
Your truth and your texture is what makes these roles matter. What makes Will version 2, 2.0 Will, truly stand on its own. What makes Hillary 2.0 stand on her own is the brilliant Coco Jones, the Cassandra. The list goes on. But I couldn't be more thankful for that. So thank you for saying that, and because that was our intention, is to make people feel seen and heard through our show. So thank you.
Definitely, definitely. And one of the things I enjoyed most about the show is how it incorporates timely yet relevant conversations and issues that are happening today. So how important do you think including these issues are when helping people become more aware and forcing them to have that deeper conversation?
It's very, very important. It's a responsibility of us to reflect the times, but do it in a way that doesn't feel soapboxy, that doesn't feel forced in any way, shape, or form. And the best way to do that, in our approach, has been to do that through character. So, for example, we currently have a section of people in this country who want to suppress Black history, and they want to suppress the knowledge of things that have happened in our country. And education is freedom. And it's very, very important it was important for us to tell that story and speak to that issue, through the lens of character, through a story that takes place with Ashley and her teacher, Miss Hughes. And again, it's done through the prism of character, and it's a way that's nuanced. It doesn't feel like we're standing on a soapbox and preaching. We don't want to do that in our show. We want to reflect the times, but do it in a way that is nuanced and with what we're trying to do with the overall vision of the show. And so we're really proud of where we landed with that.
I appreciate the show doing it in a respectful way as well. I think that
That's right.
it comes across very authentic, and I appreciate that. Definitely.
Thank you so much. And that's what it comes down to, is respecting our viewers. We don't want to traumatize our viewers with the show. It's really important to us is to handle everything with taste and just intention. I think that's like the defining word for our show in terms of, and why I feel the show's been successful, is because people really feel the love and intention behind the choices that we make on screen. And And that's a blessing, you know.
Of course. Thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you for your time as well. It's really good to see you.
Hi, I'm Rebecca with the Nocturnal. How are you?
Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So, you serve as one of the executive producers and writers for this series. So, how do you feel knowing how much success season one has and seeing the excitement that fans have for season two?
Yeah, it felt really good. Season one, I think a lot of the writers, we were holding our breath, trying to wait for people to see, are they going to respond to it? Are they going to love it how we love it? Like we felt we were onto something magical and special. But I think people were rightfully nervous. Like, this is a family that's important to us. And are they going to mess with it? Are they going to do something to sort of tamper with the legacy that we know? So I think so much of season one was holding our breath and waiting to see what the response was. So getting that response and seeing that people were enjoying it and on board for what we were creating, I think season two was a way to just sort of like, okay, feel a little more confidence in what we were doing and the tone of the show and what people were going to allow us to do and feel good about, and really just go there in a deeper way that we felt like, let's just do it. Let's do it. People love it. Let's give them more.
And you kind of touched on it. When it in season one, when making a reboot, it's kind of difficult because people like to compare the new to the old, right? So, now that we're going into season two, I feel like a little of that pressure is off. How do you feel like that's changed the creation process?
I definitely think it has made us a little more confident with taking risks. Like, we took a big risk with Carlton last season and, wondering, like, oh my God, is this going to work? And I think he became a character that was definitely talked about. People, loved him, loved to hate him. But people will get on board with you, if you're just telling a story that makes sense, that they can relate to, that they can identify with. And people aren't always their best selves, and that's okay. And so I think in season two, just knowing that people were giving us that space to play and make these characters be their own people now definitely felt freeing creatively.
You already mentioned it, because of the relatability. I loved how it takes on, this modern idea of how we think, how we are, how we're living. And I just love that because I feel like I can see myself in the show. I can see my family members in the show. And I feel like that thought alone just helps elevate my respect for the show.
Yeah, and I think that's so important because even though the Banks family is the Banks family and they live in a mansion and they drive nice cars and they wear beautiful clothes, that wealth is just the backdrop of the show. And so much of it is them just being a family that people can relate to, can look up and say, oh, I've had that conversation. That happened to me. That's my family. And I think that just that grounded family space and the conversations that they have and their relationships to each other and how they love each other and help each other through. It just feels like the right space to be in. I think that's why people responded to it.
And this season takes on conversations about Black mental health, challenging the current school curriculums, and protesting to make a difference, amongst other issues that were mentioned. How important do you feel like mentioning and including these conversations are when making people aware and, encouraging them to have deeper conversations?
Yeah, I think it's very important because this is a Black family. The Banks family is a Black family, and I think those are the conversations that you have, in your house at the dinner table with your kids. The things that are important to them. It felt an organic story to tell that protest story with this teacher that was steeped in the history of their family. Hillary had this teacher. Carlton had this teacher. Now Ashley has this teacher. They've all been at Bel-Air Academy for years. They know this teacher. And so for a teacher that looks like Miss Hughes, who's probably one of just the only, and what that feels like we've got to rally behind this teacher, because if not us, then who? And it just felt like the perfect story for them to tell, and the kinds of stories that we should be telling with this family, because it just feels real.
Definitely. I definitely agree. Thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
I'm
Okay.
good. I love your braids. They're
Oh,
beautiful.
thank you. I like your
Love them.
jacket.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about season two. I feel like your character is chasing after what he once had. So, do you
Right.
believe that your character is focusing a little too much on the end result and not so much the process?
Ooh, good question.
You
Duh.
know, sometimes I
No,
have.
she came with the heat. Is he focusing on the end result and not the process? I would say yeah, a little bit, a little bit. You know, he's thinking long term, and I think sometimes Will forgets to live in the present. But he has people that reminds him to do so. You know, and he's not gonna get it right. You know, he's not perfect, and I think that's why we love Will. It's because most of the times he gets it wrong. But like even when he's wrong, he finds a way for it to get right. You know what I mean? And so like seeing that journey is super fun. So yeah, I'd say you're right. I'd say he focuses on the end goal a little bit too much.
And, seeing how much success season one had, and you're now going into season two, what are you excited for fans to see?
Oh man, I mean, there's so much that happens in season two. I'm excited to see the dynamic shift between the family. Like the trust is broken between him and Uncle Phil, so they're not on speaking terms. But him and Carlton they have that camaraderie, and so that's something about the original that I really love. And so that Will and Carlton camaraderie this season is going to be so fun, and to see that journey, and then we have some dope cameos. So I'm excited about that as well.
Let's say that you were on the outside looking in, right? And you had the opportunity to give your character some advice. What would you say to him?
I would say keep doing what you're doing. Because sometimes you got to mess up. If you don't mess up, if you don't fall, you won't know what it's like to feel like to get up. You know what I mean? And so like, if I feel like, you know what I mean? Sometimes you got to keep falling on your face and fall hard. You know what I mean? And I think that's what Will does. And I feel like he's going to learn a lot of lessons that way. And he's going to be a better person for it.
Definitely. Just have to keep pushing through because this life is hard sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Most times life is hard, for real. Yeah.
And you mentioned at the end of season one, we saw a lot of the bonds broke, basically. So as we get into season two, how hopeful can fans be about some of those bridges mending?
Man, I mean, families fight all the time, but at the end of the day, you're still family, right? Like he doesn't have anybody out here. Like his mom is back in Philly, you know what I mean? So like, these are the only people he has out here. And so like, he knows that he has to rely on them at some point, even if his ego and his pride is telling him, nah, I don't need nobody. I've been my own man. He knows deep down that he needs his family. And so, it's going to be exciting to see and just like a soulful place that we're going to get to when we see the family finally get back together again. Because at the end of the day, it's all love,
While watching season two, one of my favorite things was when I saw how like you see that shift, you see how the family is brought together. You see the shift between the dynamic between Will and Carlton and the, dynamic between Will and Phil. So, like, I just love how everybody just kind of comes together and understands that people are going to make mistakes, and it's all about forgiving and figuring out how to move forward.
Exactly, for sure.
Definitely. Yeah. And in the first episode of season two, we get to see an appearance from Sweetie. So what was it like working with her, and had you met her before?
No, this is my first time meeting Sweetie. Yeah, but she was great. She was a pro on set, and she came in and she did her thing. That was we were filming. It was a late night shoot, and so she came through and she was super prepared, and she got in and out. She cleaned it up, and I was like, all right, bet. And she was real cool. She was real cool.
That's dope. Dope. And as I mentioned, season two, do you have any favorite scenes or a favorite moment while filming that you could tell me about?
For season two, I would say that season two, episode one, when me and Adrian did that scene on the boat where Will and Phil talk about what happens, like for me, that's just like, that was kind of a very vulnerable moment because like really showing how hurt Will was about the whole situation, like being lied to your whole life is such a huge thing. You know what I mean? It's such a huge event, right? And so like, how do you move past that? And how do you like break that wall down and say like, yeah, I forgive you. Like, you know what I mean? And so playing that was definitely fun. And working with Adrian Holmes is always a joy.
Definitely. Thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Of course. Bye.
Goodbye.
Okay. Hi, I'm Rebecca with The Nocturnal. How are you?
Hi.
Good, how are you?
No.
I'm good. So tell me a little bit what you're excited for fans to see in season two.
I'm definitely excited for Hillary and Jazz to be booed up.com. They were pressed about that season one. So I feel like everyone's going to be very happy that I make that decision to be with Jazz and we fully dive in. They're going to be upset, though, towards the end. They're going to be upset. Or will they?
Who knows? But I'm most excited for people to see the connection that Ashley has with the iconic Tatiana Ali, who plays Miss Hughes. I think that was a very special connection and definitely taught Ashley a lesson throughout the season.
I think I'm very excited about the relationship arc between Aunt Viv and Janice, who's played by Daphne Maxwell, and to see what happens in that relationship this season. I think people will be like, oh, no, she didn't. And then it did. And it's like that.
I definitely feel that. I feel like this season, each character is fighting to make sure that their voice is heard and also that their talent is seen. So, how do you feel the characters have grown from season 1 to season 2?
Actually, she hit a big milestone, turning 13. So I feel like she's really starting to grow up and become more of a young woman. But she really digs deeper into her activism part because it's a whole situation that happens and she really tries to stand up for what's right.
Definitely.
Yeah, I feel like the question is what the difference. I think Aunt Viv is still in her growth pattern of becoming, and she steps out fully into who she really is by episode 5. But the potential of what's really there really comes out around 9 and 10. So the biggest difference is you see her trying to get her sea legs, and then in this season you see it and you see what has to get burned away for the best of herself to be revealed.
Definitely.
And Hillary, I feel like she was very boss energy in both seasons, but in season 2, you get to see a little bit more vulnerability from Hillary. I think her being in love and being afraid of losing love kind of shows a real and raw perspective of her that is going to be very refreshing.
And 2 things that consistently come to my mind when watching the show is Black excellence and representation. So how important do you feel like shows like this are when discussing representation, especially within film and TV?
You know, I heard something powerful recently from Toni Morrison. Toni Morrison says, you know, if I was a Russian writer, you wouldn't ask me to try to translate it to French. You know, you wouldn't tell me to try to make this Russian thing into something French. You'd be like, no, come peek in to my world. This is the mainstream too. I feel that way about our show. Like, this is the mainstream. Like, these people aren't that incredible. We are surrounded by people who are like these people. I mean, I'm surrounded by people who were like an Aunt Viv. So I'm happy for Black excellence, but Black excellence, I mean, it's a norm. Literally, we wouldn't have what we have right now in America if it was not for Black excellence.
Talk about it. Okay. Do you guys have anything to add?
I think she said it best.
Per usual, but I do feel like also with the success of Black shows, it continues to show higher ups that these are good investments and good ideas that there should be more of. So the more successful shows like Bel-Air do, the more opportunities there are for more of them. So yeah, I'm also excited for white excellence to happen. You know, what does white excellence look like out here in these streets? A show that also has like a balance of Black characters too. Like, I'm excited for that as well. Because I'm just like, I just hate the thought of Black excellence because I'm like, we are so excellent. But you're right. And I think that's why we love it. So it feels like a loving, warm hug to us all to see ourselves reflected in the way that we know we are in true life. You know, we shouldn't be the exception. We should be one of many shows that live in this space, right?
Yes. And one thing about the show that I love is like when I watch it, I feel like I'm watching my own family, like you mentioned. I feel like I can relate to a lot of characters and I see a lot of my family members in other characters. And one thing I loved about the show is how it brought up issues in season 1 that, you know, do plague certain communities. And then I feel like with this season, we talk about activism. We talk about, you know, changing the curriculum and making sure that education is taught more than just out the acceptable curriculum. So how important do you feel like issues like this are when watching shows like these?
We are speaking to the choir, you know. So it's a hard question to answer because you don't have to educate those who already believe in what you're saying, you know. So, you know, So it's a weird question to ask in a way, because like you said, you already surrounded by these people, right? You already feel this way. But I mean, maybe, I guess the only other thing it does is it allows people not feel like they're isolated in the way they feel. And to see it on such a big platform being radiated out makes you feel like you see people, we're not crazy. This should be on Front Street. It should be okay to learn about Ta-Nehisi Coates and Toni Morrison. These people should not be taken off the bookshelves.
Yeah, definitely.
And me personally, with Hillary's storyline, I think for myself, when I was growing up, the representation kind of changed my outlook on what I could have in my life. Seeing like the Cheetah Girls and Raven, and they were able to have TV shows, movies, sing, dance. It just made all of my dreams more attainable. So I think to watch this storyline of Hillary being dark-skinned, beautiful, being loved, supported, being opinionated and not being okay, being determined and not being intimidating for having these sureties about herself, I feel like that's something that will change the mindset of the next dark-skinned girl who wants to believe that all of her dreams are attainable too.
I think it was super important to show the fact that Ashley is Black and she is part of the LGBTQ community, especially on screen, because it basically shows, it tells kids, Ashley's age, that they're not alone and it's okay to feel like this.
All right.
Hey, Rebecca.
Hey, yo, what's poppin'?
How you doing? Good
Rebecca
morning.
Nocturnal. How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Fantastic.
Lovely
I'm
roses behind you there.
Thank you. You know, Valentine's Day passed. So
I
we
was
have
gonna say, come on,
Valentine's
someone send
Day.
you roses, I.
Okay, girl.
Okay, let's talk about it. So my first question, what are you excited for fans to see in season 2?
I'm excited for the fans to see how we've elevated the show even more to the way that we look. Queen Sylvia, our stylist, the head of wardrobe, has just got us looking amazing. We're all dripping with some great outfits, but also the show's more expensive, it's bigger, it's epic, it's got, lots of juicy seasoning across it. And we're just gonna delve into each character more, With Jeffrey, we're gonna find out a bit more about him, about some of his family issues, and whether he's gonna go back and work with his brethren.
Yeah. I'm excited to, honestly, I'm so pumped for people to see Will and Carlton just get along. I think that's something from season 1 that everyone was like, come on. They're supposed to be the, like that. And I think that in the beginning of season 2, you really get to see that relationship grow and the bond that they have. And I think that's gorgeous to watch.
Right.
I'm excited for people to see us getting outside of Bel-Air, the Bel-Air gates more, and just, introducing other characters and the Banks family, just other characters and family members and also just the relationship between Philip and Viv and just how we navigate this household and balance everything with Carlton and Hillary and Ashley and also with Jeffrey, and of course Will. The whole family. That was everybody.
That was everybody.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I feel like at the end of season 1, we saw how a lot of those bonds were broken a little bit. So without giving too much away, how hopeful can fans be to seeing some of those bridges mended?
They can be very hopeful, I think.
Not you giving so much away. You gave so much away. Don't be hopeful. Don't think about it at all. Nothing could happen. I don't know.
Listen, when conflicts like this happen, they take time to be healed. Some of them, they don't get healed. There's some people, some families that don't speak to each other anymore. So
it takes time. Everything takes time.
I think nice save. She's gonna edit the first bit.
Yeah.
But no, I think the show's gonna show you that it does take time for healing, right? And even if people do come together, they might be together, but are they okay? And so I think the whole season is going to explore that. And we've got some exciting things coming your way.
Yeah, lots of exploration to be done.
I definitely agree. And I feel like this season, just like last season, we get deeper into a lot of conversations that deal with the real world. So how important do you feel like these conversations and these issues that are implemented in the show are to putting a grander scope on it?
Even with the original show, it was so groundbreaking to have a Black family on TV, and shown in the light that they are. And at the end of the day, art reflects life, and our goal is to put a mirror up to the culture and kind of show the culture what's up. And so many of the conversations that we're having, from conversations of privilege to race to mental health to
Identity.
to identity, and I think it's so important that we're doing this. And I think the greatest gift that we have been given as artists is the platform and the opportunity to be able to tell these stories that will really, really matter to people.
Amen. He nailed it. I mean, it's we have a responsibility, and I think that our show is, I've said, is like medicine for the culture and for the community. You know, there's a lot of healing that I think our show provides. You know, and a lot of answers to questions and solutions to problems, and so I think that our show is very very important. You know, and there's not a lot of shows that are in our lane. I think that we are necessary for the culture and the community, because we need to show this side of the coin more and exploit this side of who we are.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree. For me, this, even if I wasn't in the show, I'd be watching it, and because it represents so many things that we don't normally see on TV. Do you know what I mean? Like there's space for all the other types of shows, but we don't have enough of this.
Yeah,
you know. Yeah. And I think the mental health thing is a big issue that we are tackling, especially within the Black community. You know, it doesn't matter whether you're from the US, UK, Africa. It is a taboo thing that shouldn't be a taboo. Yeah. And seeing the way the Banks family deal with it is really important and impactful.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the show helps normalize those conversations that
exactly
in some households or a little touchy,
exactly.
Just pretend it's not happening.
Exactly. Like act like
just sweep it under the rug, and it's right there. It's the elephant in the room.
Definitely. So, we're, like I mentioned, we're back for season 2, and I was in an emotional roller coaster from season 1. And then when I watched season 2, I was like, oh, here goes the emotional roller coaster again. Right. So can you share with me if you guys had like a favorite moment while filming for season 2?
One of my favorite moments was Tatiana Ali, being in the show and her talking to Akira, Ashley, just seeing that moment was so powerful, moving. I felt like I was a teenager again, and she gave us some great advice, and it was so nice to get the cosign, to get the flowers from the OG cast when they're like, you guys are doing a good job. It doesn't matter what anyone else is saying. It's just like, Will likes, what I mean? Tatiana,
Daphne Maxwell Reid,
Joseph does. Daphne,
so that's just like a woosah. We can just relax, and we know that we're loved and accepted by the original OGs, and it's like, okay, they've given us the torch.
Yeah, I don't know if no one's really gonna understand what I'm saying for a bunch of weeks, but my favorite moment is the finale. Personally, I think that there's one moment that everyone's gonna know once you see it. There's one moment in the finale that was my personal favorite to film and to do, and I just think it's really beautiful and important.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. So in this series, I look at your characters as the voices of reason. And you guys come across very level-headed, which is needed when things get, a little crazy, just a little bit. So what about your characters do you feel like are relatable to both of you?
I honestly feel like Lisa and I have in common we're not very reactive. So I think we'll take in a situation and let it go through all our body first, see what all my cells think about it, and then I will react. I think that's a strength that I have and that Lisa has when the energies around her, Carlton and Will and Drew, are all very, very reactive people. So to have somebody who's not as quick to lash their emotion, whatever it is, whether it's a love bomb, whether it's anger, whether it's frustration, she filters that first.
Yeah, I think with my character, man, this is crazy. It's really, really similar to how I am in real life, to where I'm a guy who loves giving advice, helping people through situations. But that doesn't mean that I don't go through my own thing. So I may keep it, keep it cool on the outside, but of course I'm still a human being and I go through my own things. And I feel like Jazz, especially in season 2, you'll see that. So of course he's the voice of reason, right? And gives Will advice. He gives Hillary advice. But in season 2, you'll see more of like, okay, what am I going through though? And like, am I keeping it cool? Like I keep it cool with them when it comes to my own problems. So I think that is so relatable to how I am in real life too. So yeah.
Let's get into the relationships. Jordan, Jazz, and Hillary, Lisa, and Will.
Lisa and everybody.
Oh my God. Don't do me. Don't do me. Don't do her. Let's start with me, since I have to save my reputation. I am interested, honestly, to see what people are gonna think, because a lot of people are interested in Lisa this season, you know, and which I think it's so beautiful to watch, you know, Black girl just being loved, you know, and going through and everything. I think that's what's really special. But also like good problem, but a problem nonetheless of like, how do I deal with
Try not to spoil it.
yeah, literally I was like just all of the energy coming to you, and also how do I act in a friendship? How do I act in a relationship? How do I act when what I thought was my foundation is really rocky? So I think navigation has been a big theme with Lisa, of just figuring it out, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think what you in this season, what you look forward to with Jazz is is that the question? Like what do you
Yeah, so like
okay,
what can
okay, man. I'm on the right page. I'm on the right page. Kind of alluding to what I said earlier, like you'll see things that I go through, you know, with myself, but in a relationship, you know, like in the first season, I wasn't really in a relationship with Hillary. And in this season, I actually do. So, you know, things change once you're really there. And then now you got to meet the family, and now you got to meet the friends. And how are you going to act, you know, around other people? How is she going to act bringing you around? You know what I'm saying? So I think, yeah, that's going to be really exciting for everybody to see. Just Jazz really go through things in this relationship. He's a very calm, cool, collected dude, but everything in life is not like that. And you'll see that in this season.
Definitely. I think one of my favorite scenes, without giving too much away, definitely was when Hillary met Jazz's parents and Jazz was freaking out. They didn't know what to expect. That was definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah.
The way that Hillary pulled up, I was like, okay, respectful. I like that. So
a little too respectful though.
You know, sometimes we go a little overboard when we're trying to impress. That's for sure.
Touche.
So, you know, we're back for season 2. Can you share with me if you had a favorite moment while filming, behind the scenes, or a specific scene that you have from this season?
In the last episode, I have a really good, like, emotional scene.
Oof.
And I was proud of myself with that because, you know, obviously as actors, we're all extremely talented. But Jazz is like the calm, cool, collected dude, right? So I have an emotional scene to where, like, not that I couldn't tap into there, but I was surprised how much I really tapped into that, bringing stuff from my own life into it. And so hopefully that translates for viewers on the screen. But that was probably my favorite moment because I was the most vulnerable. And that's in like episode 10. Sorry, you have to see that so much later from now. But
I know. 10 weeks. But for me, I think just a lot of our favorite moments are in between scenes. But one of my, I can't say it because it'll be a spoiler, but there's a pool scene. And when you get to the pool scene, you see Lisa very off kilter. You see her as the balanced one, the reasonable one. And so when she's dealing with unreasonable feelings and situations, like, how is she going to react? So, but even before you get to the solution, the space in between is really special. So I would say that.
And I'm so excited for everyone to see season 2. I loved it. I loved the progression from season 1 to season 2. And I feel like you guys are all killing it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Really appreciate that.
Thank you guys so much for speaking with me today.